Hi all, thank you for joining me again in a new video. As promised, this is the Specimen session for 2023 and it's paper 3 and we're focusing on spreadsheets and website authoring. I'm going to do the website authoring section now because that comes first in this particular exam, and then spreadsheets are released next week. So if I scroll down, and before I start, I almost forgot, don't forget to like the video if it's helpful for you. Okay, so let's get started. So firstly, the paper tells us that we have the following source files, so you can have a look at those, cross-check what the folder you've been given. So here's mine, to make sure that this matches, and I've already checked mine so I know that it does match. And then we move straight into the evidence document. Now, as you know already, sometimes the evidence document is provided in the source files. In this exam, it is not. So it says create a new Word process document. So you have to go ahead and open up Word or whatever word processing software you use at your centre. And you need to create a document and make sure that your details are in the header or footer of the document. And you need to save it with the file name spec evidence, uppercase S, uppercase E, followed by your candidate number. So I'm going to quickly just go ahead and do that. So I'll just go into my header, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll just put that as so that's my details in the header, and then so that should be on every page, and we'll check that as we go. Now, an important thing to note here is you need to make sure you put headings in for every piece of evidence, and I'll show you that as I go. Really important to make sure it's really clear what you're doing, and this needs to go into your source files folder. So it's called spec evidence with your candidate number after it. So it should be like this, and save. So that's now ready to use. So that's the first part done, and we'll just check now. That's there, spec evidence with the rest of your source files as it should be. So let's go ahead and scroll down to the web page that we're going to be editing and creating. So it says for task 2, a trainee has started to create a web page and a style sheet for Tawara digital storage. These must be suitable for uploads into a web server. Okay, so it's already given us a little bit of information there. So we're going to have to look into that carefully when we get towards the end of our web page. So the first thing it says is to create a new folder called spec_html, and then we need to locate the following files, these ones here, and put them into that spec folder. Now I think for the purposes of this, so this is going to be your site folder, spec_html, with the files that you're going to use for your web page. I'm going to put this inside my source files folder so that everything is still together, but obviously we've created a new folder within that folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So in here, you can either right click, new folder, or you can just use the quick icon up here. So it's called spec_html. And we need to go ahead and put inside there this image, these 2 style sheets, and the web page. So I'll just select and drag. So now they're in that folder. So we have this folder in our source files folder, so everything's still together, and that's our site folder. So that's that part of the question done. And then we need to open the file spec.disks.jpg, so it's an image file, JPEG file, in a suitable application. So that's going to be your image editing software. Now, I'm very familiar with using Photoshop, so I will use Photoshop in this example. You can use whatever you're comfortable with, but you need to be able to reflect the image, you need to be able to rotate the image a number of degrees, and you also need to be able to crop the image without distorting it as well. So there's 3 things that you need to be able to do in the software that you select. So you have to make that decision. Obviously you will go through this with your teachers before your exam, So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open Photoshop. So I've gone ahead and I've opened Photoshop and I've opened the image that we have to edit. So I'll just go back to the question paper so you can see spec discs should be opened, and it says first thing we need to do is reflect the image horizontally and then save this image as disk 1 in the spec HTML folder. So we have to have that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So reflecting horizontally. So in Photoshop, it's pretty straightforward. You just go to image, and if you go to image rotation, you've got flip horizontal or vertical. So we're going to flip horizontal. So now it's that way, and then we're going to save this as, make sure it's still a JPEG, and it should be called disk 1, and it should be in our spec underscore HTML folder, which it still is. So I'm going to save that there, and we'll just check that that's in our folder. So that's there. So we've got the original file and the saved file there. So let's go back to the question and see what else they want us to do. So it says to rotate the image disk 1 90 degrees clockwise, and then save that as disk2.jpg. So let's go back and do that. So again, in image and image rotation, you go to, it was 90 degrees clockwise. So as you can see in Photoshop, it's pretty straightforward to find those two features. So we're going to rotate it like this, and then we want to save that as disk 2. In the same folder, and then go back. It says crop the image disk 2 so that all the solid state drive is visible with an equal amount of red background on each side. The image must be square. Okay, so this is really, really important, as you can tell by the way I said it. It says do not distort the image. So don't try fiddling around with the actual image file when you've tried to crop it. Your crop must be square. So you've got to crop it exactly as a square. So as we know, with a square, it should be equal on all sides. That's a characteristic of a square. So when I crop this, what I've decided to do, I'm going to use the crop option, which is the 5th one down in the tools panel on the left hand side in Photoshop. So select the crop tool, and then you have the option. Now this is why I've put the rulers on as well, so that's important. So if you go into view and add your ruler, you can then see roughly how big the image is going to be. So I've said it's about 40 centimeters in width, so, and 40 in height. So what you do is you type in your specifics. Now you can try this and you can make changes to it as you go. Make sure this is set to pixels per centimeter. And then what that does is that restricts your cropping. So that automatically means that you won't be able to crop this so that the width is more than the height. They will be equal no matter where you crop this image. Just so happens that we're going to try and crop this where the solid state drive is. So, and we need to make sure this is equal on all sides. So I'm going to start here and do that. And then I can move my crop. Yeah, so I could move that around to make sure that I get pretty much equal sides. I still think I could probably get away with making my crop a little bit smaller. So I can crop that. I still think I'm going to make it a bit smaller. So again, I'm going to go in and I'm going to crop it again, but I'm going to take it down a little bit more. So I'm going to make that 38 centimeters by 38. This is why it's so useful using this software, because it literally, I'm trying to pull it further and it won't let me. It's kind of stopping me from doing that. I think that's going to be a better crop. Yeah, so now we've got pretty much equal. It's a square. The width and the height are the same. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and save that as, I believe that is disk 3. Let's just check, might be something else. Yeah, disk 3. So file, save as disk 3. Right, so that's that. So let's go back to the exam paper. It says resize the image, disk 3, to become 600 by 600 pixels. So you also need to resize the image in pixels. So you've got to make sure, again, the software you use can do all 4 of these things. Then we have to save this as spec SSD in that same folder. So I'm going to go to image size, and I can, so the pixels, it's set to pixels already, but you just click here to change that. And I want that to be 600 by 600. And OK. And then we want to save that with the file name spec SSD, and there we go. So I'm just going to check the folder so we can see those are the images that we've created, and their various sizes there. So that's that done. So let's scroll down. It says display the contents of your spec_html folder showing the folder name, image dimensions, all the file names, file extensions and file sizes. Take a screenshot of this folder and place this in your evidence document. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. Okay, so here's the folder name, and this is the path, so we know that it's the spec HTML folder is inside this folder, and here's our files. Now we can't see the dimensions at the moment, so I need to go to view, and I'm going to change that to content, and in content you can see the dimensions. So you can see this is the final file with the 600 by 600 pixels there, and you can see that I've resized disk 3 to a square, so the width and the height are the same size. So this is what the examiner is looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot and put this in my evidence. And I want to make sure also that I put the correct task name. So this is task 2. It's task 2, yeah. So I'm going to, or evidence 2, yeah. So I'm going to make sure I put a correct label on it. So I've gone ahead and I've put this in my evidence document. I've cropped it a little bit and made it a little bit bigger. And I've called it evidence 1, step 2. You might have a different labeling system to me, that's fine. Do whatever makes sense to you, but please make sure it's clear so the examiner knows exactly which screenshot correlates to which step in the exam. That needs to be clear. The next thing it says is we need to read this little paragraph here. It says our style sheet is not finished and contains a number of errors. You are going to edit the style sheet. Make sure you use the most efficient methods. I'll come back to that shortly. All colour codes must be in hexadecimal. Also, we need to make note of that. Heading styles H4, H5 and H6 do not need defining. Another thing we need to note. So this paragraph is really important. Make sure that your style sheet contains no HTML. So we need to open the style sheet spec style.css. Now again, my choice of software for this is Dreamweaver. You might have various ones, and also do let me know if you want me to do videos on web authoring in other software as well. So yeah, just let me know that in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and open spec style.css. Okay, so I've gone ahead, this is my window for Dreamweaver, and I've opened up my style sheet spec style.css, and as you can see, it's basically just text in here. There's no tags added to this. There's no actual code in here. So we need to convert what's been written here into code that our web browser is going to recognize and our web page can communicate with as well. So there's some syntax that you need to be aware of when you're formatting this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get on and start to convert this using the correct syntax. So There is such thing as a table tag in CSS, so we could use that, and I'm going to go ahead and put my curly brackets. So automatically something's now happening. So we want to put in, it says size is 90% window width. So the attribute for this tag is called width. So here it is. And if you double click, you can then type in 90%. So that's how that should look. So we've done that first bit, so I'm going to remove that. And then it says borders not collapsed. So when we separate our attributes, we have to use a semicolon. Then we need to put in a space after the semicolon, and we can start to type in. So it says borders not collapse. So we're automatically, I know we're going to use the attribute called border, but border collapse. So in Dreamweaver, it gives us a list. So we've got border collapse there. And then we should have the option of collapsing the border. That means taking two lines. The border by default is made up of double lines. So when you collapse the borders, it makes that double line into a single line. We've been told not to collapse our borders here. So what the examiner wants us to show is that we're using the separate attribute. So that will keep those lines apart. It will not collapse them and make them into a single line. So that's that. So that's our table tag done. Not all of it yet, we've got some more to do. So the border width is 2 pixels. The style is solid, and the color of the border is this hexadecimal. Well, it's not hexadecimal, it should have the hash at the beginning. We will add that, and it has this color code. Now, we were told in our exam that we should be using the most efficient methods to create our style sheet, which means that if we have some attributes for particular tags that are shared, so for example here we've got a border width of 2 pixels, we also have a border width, so that's for the table. For the table data tag, which is the TD tag, you also have a border width of 2 pixels, so we can combine those together. We also have the solid style and the border color being the same, so we automatically know that we can put those together, and I'll show you how to do that now. So what we would do is we would write out our tags again, separated by a comma. So we've got the table tag, because these are a part of the table tag, and the table data tag, which is called TD. And then we put our colon in, and we're going to put in border, and we're going to put in border style, not color. So let's put in border style first, and that is going to be solid, not dashed, solid for both. So this will so this is making our style sheet a bit more condensed. It's not going to have as much declarations of different tags. We also need to put in the border width, and I'm going to use the border width attribute. Remember to use your semicolon, space, border dash width. Here it is. And we're going to put in a specific size there of 2px for pixels. So these kinds of things, you're going to need to remember the syntax. You're going to have to remember to use curly brackets to start the attributes of your tags, and you're going to have to know to use semicolons to separate each attribute, and put spaces in, and also that px means pixels. This is all stuff that you're going through in your lessons, so it should be okay for you, but just if you practice enough, you'll get this. So what I'm going to do, so I don't get confused, is just remove the bits I've done. Now I'm going to put in border color, because that's also something that both the table and TD tags share. So border, oops, see what's happened is I didn't put in my semicolon, so it thinks I'm continuing with the border width tag, which I'm not. So border color, and then we need to put in the hexadecimal color code, which we were told to do at the beginning. So it is 808000, and that's the code for that. So we can remove those. And so that's it for what the table and TD share. Now we've got the table data tag, has some separate attributes on its own. So we're going to go ahead and do a separate set of attributes for the TD tag, which is padding. And the bottom, top, left and right are all different. So bottom one is 6 pixels. Remember to use your semicolon. Padding again, left is 20. Left and right are both 20. So we put in 20 px here. And then again, padding right is also 20 px. And then we've got padding top. And padding top is 8 px. So that's that. I'm just going to remove that space. Okay, so that's all of that now done. So once you get into your rhythm, you'll be okay. You'll remember curly brackets and so on and so on. Now we have to put in our heading styles, so the text, and it says the color, this is the hexadecimal color code. Well, it's not written correctly, but we're going to write it now. We've got the font as well. So these are the heading styles. Remember the exam told us, and I'll go back just to show you, that we don't need to define H4, H5 and H6. So we're only defining H1, 2 and 3, which are here, and they've got different sizes, and H1 has got a different alignment, but all of this is shared by all three of them. So what are we going to do? We're going to group those together again. So we're going to do H1, H2, H3, then we're going to open our curly brackets, and we need to put in font, we'll do font family first. And the font family is, okay, so Times New Roman, but if that's not available then Times, or if that's not available then the browser's default serif font. So we have to put these in order that we want the browser to choose them, and the one that we want to be selected first should be in quotation marks. So Times New Roman should go first. So I'm going to put in my quotes, Times New Roman, and then after that quotation there, I'm going to put in a comma, and I'm going to put in Times, that was the next one, and then serif. That's the default. It must be in that order in order to get all the marks there. That's what they're showing us. So Times New Roman, then Times, then serif as the default. So now we're going to put in the font color for H1, 2 and 3. So that's called color with the American spelling. And then it's told us the blue, red and green values, but remember a hexadecimal color code goes RGB, so red, green, blue. So you have to put in the hash, followed by red, which is FF, green, which is also FF, and blue, which is 00, and that will give us the color that we need. So we've done that bit now, so I'm going to remove all of that as well. And I'm going to go ahead and define H1 separately with what is supposed to go there. So we need to put in font size, which is 48 pt, not pixels this time, points. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put in the heading the sizes for the H2 and H3, and now we're told, let's go back to the exam paper, it says we've got to put in a class. So this time we're using classes, which you would have learned in your lessons what they are. and the class is called CYAN, and the color attribute for that is 00FFFF. So we need to go ahead and put that in. So this is where you're creating something, and I'm just going to say the full stop or the period, full stop as we call it in the UK, is what you use to declare your own class. So we've done that. So by putting .CYAN, I've said this is a class and this is the name of my class. Now I'm going to put in the attributes for my class, which is hash 00FFFF. And so now I've gone ahead and done that. So now I can declare or call that class up wherever this style sheet is attached. So I can use .CYAN now wherever I want to, and you can do that with whatever you like. So that's pretty cool. So that's now done. Let's go back and see what else we need to put in our style sheet. So you must obviously cross-check. So I did mine directly from the file that I opened, but make sure that you cross-check what's in the exam paper as well to make sure that you've covered everything. So that's that. Now it says that we need to put our details as a comment at the end of the style sheet. Now remember that this should not be in HTML. We were told at the beginning of this part of the paper that we shouldn't use any HTML in this style sheet. So we've got to go ahead and do that now. So you have comments here, and that's a HTML comment. This is a CSS comment, so we're going to use this, and we're going to put in name. So you put your details like that. Then it says that we need to take a screenshot showing the contents of our style sheet and place this in the evidence document. Make sure the contents are easy to read and that the file name is clearly visible. Now, okay, so we finished step 3, and now we're on to step 4. So it says that we need to open our web page spec, a webpage.htm, in a suitable editing package. So I'm going to open mine in Dreamweaver as I've been using. So it says replace this text, a candidate, with your details, and then attach the style sheet spec style1.css to the web page. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. So here it is. So I've got mine in split view because I like to see when I've attached my style sheet that the changes have been made. You work however you feel comfortable. You might like to work in only code view. I advise you to have the code open at some point. I don't advise you to just have the web page open only, because you really need to be able to see the code and familiarise yourself with the changes that you've made. So I'm just going to look for this text that I need to change. Okay, so here we go. So I need to change this information here to my own. So name, and then center number. So it's making the changes to my design as I go, and then it tells me that I need to attach my style sheet. So if I just go to file and attach style sheet, and the style sheet that we're attaching is spec style 1, it says, and then press OK. So you can see the changes have been made to the web page itself. And if we look in the head section now, we've got the link tag here with our style sheet file name in there, showing us that that is now the style sheet that our web page is going to use, or our HTML is going to read. So let's go back to the question paper, and it now says attach the style sheet that you edited in step 3, so that's the one we just made all the changes to your web page, so that it is a higher priority than the style sheet spec style1.css. So that automatically tells me that this style sheet needs to go underneath the new one that we're going to attach, needs to go below the one that we just attached. So I'm going to put my cursor in my head section, and I'm going to go to file and attach my other style sheet, and this is the one here, one that I've already got open, and that's gone underneath. So that one will be the one that takes a higher priority than the one spec style one that we created. As you can see, the changes, this is the styles that we've put in with the border colours and the text colours and so on. So you can see those changes have been made. Let's go back to the question. So it says save our web page, so we're going to do that as well. And then it says use the class that you created or you declared in your style sheet to set the colour of the text Tawara digital storage to CYAN. So we need to do that. So let's just go ahead and do that now. So if we look at the text, Tawara digital storage is part of a string or a sentence already. So for us to be able to change the colour of that, which is what the exam paper is asking us to do using our class that we created, we need to use the span tag, because what the span tag does is it allows us to apply some changes to text that's within other text. So I'm going to create the tag, and now this time the syntax, as you know, we're using HTML, so we use angled brackets. So I'm going to use the span tag, and there it is, and I'm going to call up now my class, and I need to put in the name of the class that I'm using, and that's all you need to do to declare that class that you're using. And I'm going to close my angle bracket there, and as you know, so it's got a closing angle bracket here. This needs to be around the text for it to work. So we've got the H1 tag here, so all this text, SSDs, as you can see, from Tawara digital storage, that's one string, and it's set to H1. But the colour of Tawara digital storage needs to be set to the class CYAN. So we've done that using the span tag. And so you can see the opening span tag there, and the closed one is wrapped around our text. So if I click off, that's now changed the colour of only that text in the string to the colour that we declared in our style sheet. So that's what we needed to do there. So I'm just going to go ahead and save those changes and have a look now at what we need to do next. So it says place into the appropriate section of the correct web development layer. That means the head section of our web page. We need to put in some meta tags. It says we need to put in metadata to define the character set UTF-8. Now character sets are sets of characters that you find on your keyboard that are commonly used. UTF-8 is most commonly used character set, so we need to make sure that our web browser knows that that's the character set we're using. So this metadata is going to communicate with our web browser to tell it what we want it to. Also, we need to put in meta tags to say that our name, that we are the author of the web page, and then meta tags for keywords, so that when the web browser, when someone is searching using particular keywords, they're associated with our web page. So we've got to put in keywords Tawara, TDS, DVD, and SSD. So we're going to go ahead and define those now. So I've gone into my web page and I'm in the web development layer, so the head section of my web page. This is why I say that you have to use split view so that you can see what's going on in your code. And we're going to use the meta tag to declare our metadata, and we want to put in char set, character set, and then we're going to define what that is. So that's UTF-8. So that's the first thing that we need, and then we need to put in another meta tag for the author, so the name. So we're going to declare a name called author. This is the metadata, and the content is going to be our name. I cannot put name because names are used words, so I'm going to put my actual name in here. You would put your full name in for this, and then we need to put in another meta tag to define our keywords this time. So this time it's name and it's keywords. As you can see, it's already there, and the content of our keywords is going to be what we've declared as our keywords. So I'm just going to go back to the exam paper just to check. Tawara, TDS, DDB and SSD. So Tawara, DVD, SSD, and the last one was TDS. Okay, TDS. So those are those, and obviously use your angled bracket to close. So those are your meta tags inside there. And then let's go back to the question paper and see what we have to do next. Okay, so now we need to replace the text place image here in the web page with the image spec SSD that we edited in step 1. And it says add appropriate alternate text to this image. So you should know from your lessons that if an image is not doesn't load, the web browser doesn't recognize the format, or it doesn't load, you have alternate text that will appear in place of that image. So that's what we need to put here. So we need to write image of and whatever it is. So let's go back. So I'm going to look for this place image here. Okay, so here it is. So this is where the image is going to go. So I'm going to go to insert, image, and it's this one. So I'm going to remove the text here. So the image is there, and then the alt tag is in there, also the alt attribute. So image of, oops, clicked on caps, image. Solid state drive. I'm just using the full name because some people might not know what an SSD is. And then I want to save that again and go ahead and look back at the question. It says save the web page as we've just done, display the web page in your browser, take screenshot evidence and place this in your evidence document. Make sure that all the page can be seen, all the text can be easily read, and the address bar is fully visible. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I've gone ahead and I've pressed F12 in Dreamweaver to preview the page, and it's opened up in Mozilla. Now obviously you can see that it's too big for my screen, so I'm gonna just zoom out, yeah, until it's this size, so you can see everything in one screenshot, and the web address is also there. So I'll take a screenshot of that and then put that in my evidence document. And then it says take a copy of the HTML source and place that also in the evidence document. So you should have a screenshot of your web page in the browser and the HTML that you've just edited as well. So that should all be in your evidence. And that's the end of that part of the question paper. So I will see you again for the second part of this specimen. So that will be spreadsheets. I hope this was helpful. Send me a comment, just letting me know if there's anything you would like me to do differently. If you want me to use different software, go over this so you can see how to do it in different software. That's fine. Let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good luck in your exams, and I'll see you in the next video.